It's the September of 1928, and Fleming woke up in an unusual place. It's his family home, which isn't unusual to him. He's just been away on vacation for so long that even this feels a bit weird. It's nice to be back. He's excited to go to work just like he was when he first got accepted to the hospital. On his way to work, he remembers the hurry he was in when he was leaving his last shift, and that he'd have to start his day off by cleaning up the mess he had made. But he doesn't let this ruin his mood. Arriving at the hospital, he goes up to his lab and he finds something weird. As he sifted through the petri dishes, he noticed something rather unusual in one of them. He had left his petri dish with Staphylococcus bacteria, but what caught his eye was the mold that had grown while he was away. More specifically, not the mold, but the area around it. See, the areas close to the mold were free of bacterial growth, unlike the other areas of the dish that were further away. This observation suggested that the mold contained a substance that was actually inhibiting bacterial growth. Fleming's mind started running rapidly. If his observation was true, he just came to discover a cure for all of human diseases caused by bacteria. What a stroke of luck. And that's why he was a great, unlike you. But you know who was even greater than Fleming? This is a little boy born in the city of Milan, known as Nikola Tesla. From birth, he's almost inseparable from his older brother and confidant Dane. One day, Dane goes out horse riding, and due to a tragic accident, he never comes back. From this point on, Nikola lives every moment of his life feeling like a black cloud following him around. Despite his interest in science and academic successes, both his father and his priest want him to become a priest, to which he kindly responds, "Fuck you, I'm leaving," but before he actually gets the chance to leave, he contracts fucking cholera and becomes bedridden for 9 months, almost dying multiple times. Once he finally becomes able to stand up, "Guten Tag, it's the Austro-Hungarian Empire and you should fight for us," to which he kindly responds, "Sure, bro. Fuck you, and who the fuck do you think you're?" He took a retreat to nature, healing both mentally and physically during this time. Luckily, due to his excellent academic achievements, he received a scholarship, which he then used to enroll in the Imperial Royal Technical College of Graz. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to finish his studies because he found women and gambling more appealing. After leaving college, he never contacted his family ever again, who even believed that he was dead for a while. The only logical thing left to do was to fly to America. With as many pennies as poems and a few scrap papers filled with flying machine calculations, I'm not joking, he safely landed in New York. Here he met and worked for a fella named Edison until they had a falling out and started arguing about electricity things. The rest really is history. After the patents of his successful discoveries yielded him some monetary rewards, he only fell into a deeper pit of loneliness. Since he could now finance his own projects, he had no incentive to leave the house. During this time, he even started speaking to extraterrestrial beings. Nikola led a simple life for the rest of his years. His only motivation to leave his New York apartment was to feed the pigeons. Here's a rather interesting quote from his autobiography if you want to pause real quick. After peacefully passing away in 1943, Nikola Tesla's name was forever ingrained in history. Unlike yours, because you're a fucking loser. Don't feel too bad about yourself, because if we're being honest, Tesla got quite lucky. He had to be at the right place at the right time a lot, he had extremely high IQ, and he had to pay the price of having a shit life, a mental disorder, 0 bitches, but pigeons as compensation. He was truly 1 in a billion. Unlike you. Introducing this guy named Albert Szent-Györgyi. In the 1800s, an alarming rate of sailors started dying from diseases like scurvy and sepsis. However, those who frequently ate citrus plants had a much lower rate of mortality. This led to people noticing and naming a certain hexuronic acid as responsible for this, and it was this guy's mission to prove it. He started experimenting on lemons and lettuce, but after months and months of trying, he had no success. One day, when he's having dinner with his wife, he finds out that his wife made paprika salad. Instead of telling her that this is fucking repulsive and I'm not eating this shit, he makes the excuse that he needs to take it to his lab to experiment on. Although in reality this was a desperate attempt to get away from the dinner table, he concludes that he might as well take a look at the vegetable. And to everyone's surprise, he succeeds, discovering what would later be called vitamin C. That's pretty cool, but not as cool as Alexander III. Not him actually, the other guy. This guy's name is Prince Philip, and he gets brutally fucking assassinated, which leaves his son Alexander to take the throne at only age 20. Quite understandably, a lot of people are questioning the new heir's ability to be a good ruler at such a young age, but this only gave Alexander a great opportunity to establish himself as a peaceful and diplomatic ruler. Alexander's morning routine consisted of conquering, drinking, conquering more, and drinking a bit more, until he had about 20% of the known world at his fingertips. His dynasty stretching from Macedonia to India, he became one of the most prolific rulers in history. Conclusion, be born to the king and be a raging alcoholic. If we're being entirely honest, hard work isn't enough. This might be a hard pill to swallow for some, but all of these people got lucky in one way or another. It's quite rare that a dinner with your wife leads to a magnificent discovery or that you're born as the son of the king. And I've not even mentioned the fact that there's more and more of us than ever before, and as time passes, there's less and less things to discover. So if we consider your chances of success realistically, it would be foolish not to have a plan B. But if we're being honest with ourselves, your best bet might just be to give up. I'm not trying to be mean or disheartening here. It's not worth that lethal. It is entirely true. Arriving at the hospital, he goes onto his lab and he finds something weird. As he sifted through the petri dishes, he noticed something rather unusual in one of them. He had left his petri dish with Staphylococcus bacteria, but what caught his eye was the mold that had grown while he was away. More specifically, not the mold, but the area around it. See, the areas close to the mold were free of bacterial growth, unlike the other areas of the dish that were further away. This observation suggested that the mold contained a substance that was actually inhibiting bacterial growth. Fleming's mind started running rapidly. If his observation was true, he just came to discover a cure for all of human diseases caused by bacteria. What a stroke of brilliance. In that moment, he felt so grateful for himself. As a farmer's boy, he had to work extra hard to make ends meet, and even harder to afford education. Fighting in the Great War, seeing so many of his friends being taken away by bacterial infections, from dreaming as a little boy about working in St. Mary's Hospital to actually working in the most prestigious hospital in the country. And even after being accepted, working long, strenuous hours just to one day have his own laboratory. And after he made his huge discovery, he had to work super hard to make sure people actually believed him. Because, as we know, humans aren't that great at accepting things that go against the status quo. He had to become the person not only to put himself in a position where he could make his discovery, but to see the potential applications of this petri dish, because I guarantee that almost everyone else in the hospital would have thrown it into the bin without a second thought. So to say that Fleming got lucky would be absolutely foolish. And of course, there are things that are out of your control, like who you're born to and when you're born. Most of the people we look up to came from very modest backgrounds. Think of Fleming or Tesla, for example. The difference is they were determined to make the most of it. And don't even get me started on Plan Bs. All Plan B is propaganda by successful people to make sure that you don't succeed. Remember, the only thing that makes people successful is the difference of success between you and them. Anyone can succeed, but not everyone can. So when they give advice like this, just remember it's because it's in their best interest. Not to mention that quite frequently people who have Plan Bs don't even end up succeeding on those either. Believe it or not, I don't want to be an inventor. I don't want to pay the price to be this successful as these guys. You have to give up so much and I'm not willing to do that. Don't take this video as you must be successful or you're worthless. Take this video as I hope you're living true to yourself and you're accomplishing your biggest dreams, because time sure is ticking and the clock doesn't seem to be slowing down. And if anyone actually believes that everything's already been done before, just remember that this is what we thought at every stage of civilization. The caveman didn't know about agriculture, farmers couldn't even fathom printing, the medieval lads thought that horses would never be replaced, and I'm sure if you told the factory workers that there'd be a huge invisible force connecting everyone together called the internet in a few years, they would laugh you out the room. The fact is, recent advancements in population and technology only meant a more level playing field. The average person has access to more tools than ever before, and that should motivate the fuck out of you. So if anyone ever dares to tell you that you should be realistic, you should give up, or that you will never achieve anything remarkable, respond to them like Tesla would. Sure bro, fuck you and who the fuck do you